a man hurled a 200-pound backpack over the cliff edge. The heavy pack slammed into the tent below, jolting the sleeping woman from her dreams. Still groggy and confused about what was happening, she barely had time to process the situation before another impact shook her shelter violently. The force sent her tumbling out of the tent, but she managed to grab hold of the fabric at the last second. Looking down, her blood ran cold. Beneath her dangling feet was a 1,000-foot drop into the abyss. Just then, another backpack came flying through the air.
Give me the knife! I'm trying to be nice, Kelly. But now you're just pissing me off!
She had no choice but to release her grip on the tent and scramble for a nearby rock ledge. The pack, along with its severed rope, plummeted into the darkness below. Using every ounce of strength, she hauled herself up onto the rocky outcrop, collapsing on her knees as she gasped for air. After catching her breath, she slowly stood up, reset her damaged tent, and crawled back inside. The reason she found herself spending the night on this precarious cliff face was because she had witnessed something she was never supposed to see. Julie and her best friend had planned a rock climbing trip together. Since Julie's boyfriend had died in a climbing accident at this very location, her friend had come along to help her pay respects to his memory. As the two women were packing their gear and preparing for the climb, a jeep suddenly pulled up outside their cabin. Four handsome young men stepped out of the vehicle, and Julie and her friend exchanged knowing glances. Jack, who had been watching from nearby, noticed their reaction. He approached the friend and struck up a conversation, eventually inviting both women to join them for dinner that evening. The friend eagerly accepted, though Julie wasn't particularly interested. However, for safety's sake, she decided to accompany her friend anyway. The group gathered around a campfire, sharing stories and getting to know each other as the hours slipped by. When it grew late, Julie decided to turn in for the night, while her friend stayed behind to continue drinking with the men. Neither of them realized that danger was already closing in. After more revelry, the friend excused herself to use the restroom, but Jack stealthily followed her with predatory intentions. Anna screamed in terror and managed to scratch Jack's face in her struggle to get away. The other three men heard her cries and rushed over to stop Jack, giving Anna the chance to flee in panic. Afraid of getting into serious trouble, one of the men suggested they go explain the situation. After all, everyone had been drinking. But Anna was hiding in the bushes, too terrified to come out. When she saw the four men approaching with flashlights, she turned and ran. It wasn't long before the men cornered her. One grabbed her from behind while Jack moved forward, intending to explain himself. Instead, Anna bit the man holding her. Enraged, Jack threw a punch, and Anna lost her footing, tumbling down the steep slope. Her scream woke Julie, who quickly dressed and went outside to investigate. The four men panicked when they realized what had happened and scrambled down to check on Anna. They found her barely clinging to life. The man in the cap frantically pulled out his phone to call 911, but Jack stopped him, arguing that the police would never believe their story. With scratches on his face and bite marks on his friend, Jack insisted their account would sound completely fabricated. The man in the cap protested that it was just an accident, but his companions had fallen silent. Taylor, who had some legal knowledge, grimly pointed out that this could be construed as intentional murder. They were looking at 20 years in prison. The revelation sent Jack into a complete panic. He reached for a rock, but the man in the cap tried to stop him. Jack then drew a knife from his belt and held it to the man's throat.
We are not going down for this. We're gonna stick together like we always do. Now you're either with us, or you're against us. So what's it gonna be?
Seeing their friend threatened, the others didn't intervene. They watched in horrified silence as Jack picked up the rock and brought it down hard on Anna's head. To ensure everyone would be equally complicit, Jack forced each man to take turns striking the girl with the stone. Once all of their hands were stained with blood, they wiped away any evidence under Anna's fingernails and decided to throw her body off the cliff to make it look like an accident. What they didn't know was that Julie had been watching from a distance, recording everything on her phone. When she saw her friend's body being thrown over the cliff, she couldn't help but cry out in shock.